5:30 in the morning. I was having my coffee on the patio, and I'm like, "Oh, I need a jacket. This is freaking cold."
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I spent most of the day in my dungeon, my man cave. But I sensed it was nice. Lunchtime, I got outside. Okay, give everyone a minute or so. Have I seen you, Sharon, in that? Oh, there's Sharon. Got a busy agenda for you today, Sharon. So I'm
Oh, I know a lot to read. I did look at it.
yeah. So yeah, I hope you've got your vocal cords.
Yep, pretty good.
Good.
I apologize in advance for the invoice packet.
It's all right. Sooner we get it all paid, the sooner we'll be done, right?
Absolutely. We're not done till we pay the last bill. That's
That's
our
it.
that's our goal. We can't turn it over to completely to the building. We can't turn the building committee charge back until we pay the 100%. Well, let's see. It's about 5:31. I'll call the meeting to order. Public comment. Any public?
No.
Excellent. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior minutes of August 4th, 2025. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a
Just
second?
Just to
Yep.
screw us up, but good.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's easy. The last minutes, I think you made the motion last minute, so she can save as. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, sure.
Thank you, Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business, hearing none. Moving on to new business. Architect's report. I think I saw Justin on the line.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the building committee. Similar update from the last several meetings, managing closeout items, including O&M manuals, warranties, etc. All things that go as part of the overall document turnover and completion of the project, as well as back checking, back punching some of the punch list items, and helping manage some of the remaining FF&E and Playscape installation. So couple of field items regarding the Playscapes in order to get the port and place surfacing queued up. Necessitated a project meeting on site last week just to make sure that there was sufficient slope in some of the Playscape areas. So all that is queued up and ready for the installation. Other than that, going through many of the kind of latent or lingering ATPs to resolve, a number of which are up for approval this evening. We'll be happy to answer any questions as they come up. But other than that, excited to see everybody at tomorrow's ribbon cutting.
Absolutely. Any questions for Justin, or we'll wait till the later? Hearing none. Construction manager's report. Zach, you up?
Good evening, everybody. Similar to Justin, status quo updates just over the past couple of weeks. Right now for final cleaning, we completed the exterior final cleaning this morning, just taking care of the final light poles and then also exterior window cleaning prior to the ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow. The cell booster or the distributed antenna system, we're expecting to have that commissioned and online next week. There was a slight delay with one of the parts and smarts, one of the hubs that goes into the MDF that was delayed. We're expecting to have that in hand by the end of this week, installed and then up and online next. Outside of that, continuing to collect closeout items from all of our subcontractors and push those across to the Tecton and the rest of the design team for review and approval. And then lastly, we completed another drone flight this past week, which I could share the screen to you guys just to give you an idea of where we currently are at with progress for the site itself prior to tomorrow's ribbon cutting. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
So this was a flight back in June that we're looking at right here. You can see a lot of the hay mats along the berms, the hills, and the amount of seeding just getting ready to come into place. So we had the sod completed around the building. And then as we pan into August, you can see that a lot of the seeding throughout the site is beginning to establish. And then over on the east, you can also see here, we were able to complete the installation of the 30,000 square feet of sod just over the play field. So the kids have something available for them towards the end of next week or right after Labor Day. And then clicking over to a couple of the other images that we had from the drone flight. Another look at the east field, you can see that we're taking care of everything, water in it. Expected to have that turned over to the town by the end of the month. And then also this was during or a progress shot of the line striping that took place over at the basketball court. That's actually completed now. So when you guys come out to the site tomorrow for the ribbon cutting, you'll see that all the colors are actually in place. But things going well around the site. You can see that we truly have a beautiful building now and a property. And then just clicking over to one other view that we have right here of the front. As Justin mentioned, we took care of the final couple of grading items that came up in relationship to the playgrounds. So those are actually all in place now, and we're just waiting for the rubberized surface to be completed on site by the playground vendor. Any questions?
Mm-mm. Looks great.
looking forward to seeing it in person tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to having you guys down. I already bought the big scissors.
You got enough Gilwayne and Collier's hard hat for 2 photo apps? Or with that, I'll turn it over to Adam to take us through the unfortunately painful process of approving some of the final processes. So you're up, Adam.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Additional items that, in addition to the punch list and furniture that Justin mentioned and Zach mentioned, there are other components to some of the playground coordination that Collier's working on. That's the sort of the big component left incomplete at this point. So we're working with the vendor to get some of the logistic items resolved, including protection of the work while it's curing, because there's no Gilbane fence up anymore. So I want to make sure that people don't inadvertently access those areas when they look complete but aren't complete. As well as sequencing work for getting the rubberized surface poured. So that's all in place before school starts. As you'll see here in a moment, with some of the procurement items, lots of last mile either end requests or coordination items that are coming up at this meeting, as well as will be coming up in future meetings. So for example, we had a meeting the other day with Town IT and the Promethean board vendor and Prometheans about some setup and integration and configuration items that ultimately needed some additional components purchased because the new models didn't have something that the old models had. So it was resolved. It worked out pretty quickly, and we'll talk about that at a future meeting in terms of what that impact was. But those sort of last mile components, as teachers start to filter in, as facilities and Town IT start to really run the day-to-day operations of the building, these items pop up. So that's a lot of what we're responding to help it make it as streamlined as possible for day one. There's always little bits that continue on as you kind of get through working through the kinks of the building, but goal is to have it be small items that come up, not larger items. So something like being able to teach on Promethean boards is pretty important to get us all day SAP. So jumped on that one. Other items that have occurred or are going to occur, the Eversource walkthrough, post-construction walkthrough occurred last week at the end of the week. So presuming there are no issues from that, that should yield the release of the first wave of Eversource tax credits, which is just over 300,000, I believe, with I think 90,000. That's part of the post-occupancy at the 12-month mark. So
You
that's
said
an
tax
important
credits. I
item.
think you meant rebates. I
Oh,
believe.
rebates. Sorry. Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. Yeah.
My notes are out of order because the next bullet point's on the tax credit. Also looking to get another wave of data over to CLA, the town's tax expert consultant, on determining the value, potential value, and documentation for the tax credit. Ultimately, that won't be submitted until just after the new year to comply with the tax law configuration that has been established with the town. But the point is to try to get all that documentation wrapped up here as soon as possible, so it's ready and rearing to go as soon as January 1st or whatever hits. With that, we already mentioned the ribbon cutting tomorrow. I think that the bulk of the rest of the discussion is kind of baked into some of the procurement and invoice items. So I'll pause there before we move on in case there are any questions.
Hey, Adam, or anybody, where are we supposed to be parking tomorrow for the ribbon cutting, and where are we doing it?
We're gonna be doing the ribbon cutting on the south or the front face of the building. So I'm actually gonna take the arm on the north, the gate for the bus parking lot, and put that down just to help direct everyone to the south parking lot. But main entrance by the site sign, the site main entrance sign.
Thank you. Exciting.
Hmm.
All right, if there's nothing else, Graham, do you want me to move to?
Yeah,
Our
move right
procurement
to,
section?
yeah, procurement section, yeah.
All right, I'll share my screen and we'll do this in chunks as we usually do, just because there are a few items that might have a bit more discussion than normal for this evening, and I'll point those out when we get to them. All right, so we'll start off with Gilbane and their ATPs. This first item is just for reference because it was approved on an expedited basis. This was ATP 131 for $6,289. This was for additional card readers and supporting infrastructure for the elevator. The elevator function had no issues in terms of its overall design, but there was a desire to have card reader access limit the ability for those to use the elevator to only those staff that had permissions. So this was a request that came out of coordination with facilities and other town staff, and was approved on an expedited basis while the subcontractors were still on site to help eliminate remobilization costs and that kind of thing. So no action on that item, but just reporting back here on that expedited approval. Okay, now moving on to items that do have a potential vote for this evening. Starting with ATP 113 for $12,309. This is for some code required disconnect switches at variable air dampers across the project. Justin, I don't know if you have more specific data about this one, but it was an item that came up out of a discussion. I think there was a back and forth with the electrical inspector, but ultimately it was determined to be required, and so they were added into the
Yeah,
program.
the one thing that I would add is that there are disconnects within the variable air dampers themselves. The engineer of record considered that those complied with the disconnect requirements. The electrical inspector, who ultimately has jurisdiction over the project, disagreed with that assessment and requested that additional disconnects be provided outside of each air damper. So this is the cost to provide them.
Item ATP 115. This is for $8,892. This was for some revisions to one of the playground locations where when the project was initially let out for construction bid through Gilbane, there were the 3 areas of playgrounds that had an initial design to them. As part of the eventual playground design process in coordination with the school principal and administration and some of the other input stakeholders, some of the equipment changed, and there were some curbs and some concrete curbs that were eliminated as part of that design as well as some changing to where some of the pieces of equipment would lay. So that resulted in a change into what was originally under Gilbane's construction scope. So this is the reconciled change order to ultimately make those changes to accommodate the final playground design in terms of curbing and under drainage. Any questions on this one?
But we're all set now, right? It's resolved. We know what we're doing.
Yes.
Yes.
In terms of overall contract, yes.
Yep.
ATP 117 for $11,457. This was a request from facilities to have a change in the overall material in the parking lot. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 117, that's the next one. 117 is for the playground pollinator pathways. So this is for provision of native plants and actually installing a mulching bed along the riverfront there, in between the project site where the wetlands and the river become at the Neck River. So the notion is that there could be a town event to actually dig small holes and install the actual plants, but the materials of the nice mulch bed to install them into would already be provided. This
Well,
scope was developed in conjunction with planning and zoning,
And the land
coordinate
trust.
intent and the land trust. Yes.
We'll be looking for volunteers on September 27th to help install these plants. I'm counting on all of you to being there. We'll probably possibly have some high school students involved also. So this was, just to give you a little history, as part of the land swap that we needed with the land trust so that we could avoid having a treatment plant on the septic and having a conventional septic system. There was an informal understanding that as part of the project at the end, we would, provide a pollinator pathway garden for the project as kind of a good faith effort. So this is the culmination of this, and I think the treatment plant saved us over $1 million and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in operating and monitoring costs. So I think this was a good deal.
And as part of this, my understanding is that the proposed subcontract also donated some plants within this as well. So it was
Okay.
a
Good.
good faith effort as part of this to establish a nice native area along the river there.
Yeah. And it could be a teaching thing. And it's pretty reasonable cost, obviously, in the scheme of things.
We've got to the next one, ATP 118 for $19,790. This is the facility's request to make a change between grass seed and a 4-inch layer of mulch at the parking lot islands, just to help facilitate mowing in those areas in between the individual islands and maintenance, which would be a little challenging based on the equipment that they ultimately have. So that's where this request came into place.
So you're substituting mulch for the grass? Did I understand that right?
Right.
Okay.
And there was a little bit of earthwork I think needed to make that happen, that elevation change, so it wasn't just plopping down mulch on top
Yeah,
of the
so-
finished grade.
We were at final finish grade, and then we just had to do some scraping to bring it back down to that plus or minus 4 inches there. And then originally it was supposed to be seeded in those areas, but the conversation with Peter Anderson and a few other folks was too, without having irrigation out to those islands, you would quickly see all of those zones just start to die pretty quick, and it become kind of a maintenance nightmare versus just having the mulch that you'd have to swap out once a season.
Is it organic mulch, I assume? Is it a shredded bark mulch, or is it a stone mulch?
It's an organic bark mulch.
ATP 120 for $5,187. I will preface this that this one may need some discussion or deferral depending upon the thoughts of the committee. But this is for an additional swing gate at the pre-K playground, which is that one closest to the roadway on the west side of the building. So if you can see the screen here, we have the playground area with the concrete walkway leading over to the parking lot areas. This cyan colored line here is a small retaining wall that helps provide that sunken area for the playground to help prevent some of the visual and direct access from the roadway. There's another fence here to help provide an actual enclosure, so the fencing continues around for the actual, keeping the pre-K students engaged in this area. And then the red fence is up at the higher level to continue and maintain that enclosed space. However, as I mentioned, there's about a 2-foot difference between the sidewalk and the playground area and this upper area with grass. The request from facilities was to add a fence along this red line here. I'm sorry, add a gate along that red fence line, so that way they can get in and mow. Otherwise, they'd have to either lift mowers up here onto the grass area or weed whack or what have you in order to maintain the grass. The reason why I mentioned that this may want some discussion is because after this ATP scope was developed, there was another request for potentially adding some additional just exit gates along the fence line. So now we're talking about potentially 3 additional gates on top of the 2 that already exist closer to the school. So it's hard a little to visualize here as to what that all looks like. So the thought might be that if the committee's amenable, anyone attending the ribbon cutting tomorrow might be able to put eyes on this and kind of get a comprehensive look at that area before picking.
Why
or
are
just
they
adding on
requesting
gates.
extra gates? For what purpose?
Just to allow egress out of that pre-K area. Again, that's something we might want to discuss if you're on site tomorrow at the ribbon cutting. But point being is that I've included this ATP because this has been requested for a while now, but it may want to be deferred until the next meeting just to allow people to put eyes on it and get a
So
sense of what the scope is.
this number includes the extra 3 gates?
No, this number
Just
is
the
just
one
for
gate.
one, right? And so the notion was if you prove this tonight and then there's a request for 2 more, do they instead want to be consolidated as part of one effort
Gotcha.
rather than piecemeal?
Yeah, and I think
I would
since
think for a security thing, why would I don't understand the
I-
need for extra egress. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think we should probably, because this is getting borderline with the school security stuff. Maybe we should not do it in public, and maybe it makes more sense to talk about it in person on the site.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because there are rules about what you can say, talk about things that
Okay.
affect security. So
Okay.
I think
So
it makes
just
sense.
this came up. It's on the committee meeting tonight, but it might be a deferred approval or consideration for a vote.
Yeah, I think
ATP.
yeah.
Oh, good.
No, I just think it probably makes sense. And if we're gonna do it, it makes sense to consolidate the whole thing in one rather than piecemeal it, in my opinion.
I agree. So I would defer it.
The last 2 for Gilbane's ATPs, ATP 130 for $5,128. This is for additional fire alarm relay modules based on discussions with the fire marshal. Justin, if you want to speak to this one.
Yeah, this was just a request to provide additional, it had to do with the fire alarm activation and the controls for some of our assembly spaces in the gymnasium and the cafeteria. So my understanding is that in the event of a fire alarm activation, the module allows the lighting in both areas to be at 100%. So this is an enhanced safety feature and one requested by the fire marshal, and we agree with its implementation.
And then the final ATP for this evening, ATP 132 for $3,417. Similarly, based on some coordination with the fire marshal, as part of our some of our final walkthroughs before we achieve certificate of occupancy, there were additional exit signs requested at the gymnasium that were in addition to the exit signage provided before or provided originally in the documents. So this again was an additional request from the fire marshal as part of final sign-offs. All right, I will put the draft motions for these on the screen. And I will highlight this one, the one that was discussed that maybe wants to be talked about in person tomorrow.
Okay. So is that the
Yep.
first one there?
There we go. 113.
113's first? Okay. I make a motion to approve ATP 0113 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $12,309 for local disconnect switches at all variable air damper per electrical inspector and code requirements.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0115 for the change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $8,892 for playground curbing and under drain revisions at the playground per bulletin 49.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0117 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $11,457 for pollinator native plants and mulching bed installation at the east fields along the Neck River.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0118 for change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $19,790 for additional mulch associated grading at the parking lot islands at facilities request per bulletin 50.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0130 for change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $5,128 for additional fire alarm relay modulars per RFI 400 and fire marshal direction.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0132 for change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $3,417 for additional exit signs at the gym per fire marshal direction.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you everyone for those. So I'm going to pull up some additional PDFs here in a moment. While those are loading, there are a couple of items that don't have backup, but are just motions that we'll look at here shortly. The first is there's a motion for increasing the purchase order for WB Meyer, who is the movers for the project, by an allowance number of 40,000. That's largely to cover one of the invoices that's in the invoice packet, reflecting some of the additional moved items that were consolidated from Brown and Ryerson and ultimately moved to Neck River. That number is higher than the invoice amount. I'm working with Peter Anderson and Ben Whitaker to confirm what other invoices would be relevant from that sort of district-wide move effort for the project. So that's intended to capture that. I don't know that all of it will be used, but at least covers the PO increase so that their invoice can get paid for those additional moves and boxes and things like that. The other motion that is included in this snippet that doesn't have any backup is similarly for Connecticut Communications, an increase in their PO of $500 for an invoice that's in the invoice packet for some of the phone configuration and installation work that occurred at the elevator. So that was something that Connecticut Communications did out. They coordinated with town IT as part of that effort. So that's why you'll see that motion for an increase of $500. All right, now on to the four items that are on the screen here. and I'll just start with what's on the page here first. Similar to that playground fence gate, this one may need some discussion just in terms of how to proceed. This is ad service from Tecton, featuring its subconsultants, namely Kohler Ronan, and the structural engineer Michael Horton, for design and bid documentation work for a potential solar project. So effectively, this scope would include, and then Justin can speak to it more eloquently if I've missed anything, but effectively taking the current design, which contemplated having solar on the roof, and taking it to the next level such that it could be put on the street for bid, and solar companies would bid on that actual designed layout rather than proposing a number of different layouts or configurations, which would be hard to then normalize across bidding. It might vary in terms of what the town is getting. So the notion is that Kohler Ronan would do the shading analyses. They would outline the specific layout of where a solar panel array would go on the roof, not just there would be one on the roof. They would actually go do some calculations and come up with a proposed design layout. Tecton would take that and review that against the existing architectural components, most notably the roof, making sure that there are appropriate roofing details that align with the roofing system and the 30-year warranty that's provided for the project. And then Michael Horton, the structural engineer, would similarly take that layout design and confirm that it aligns with the roofing structure. So roofing structure was designed in contemplation of a PV system. Now it's just, where you laid it out, does that actually work at a granular level with beam locations, loading locations, point loads, things like that. So this would effectively develop the end deliverable. This would be a bid package, and assuming that the allowances are also approved, bid package that could be put out by the town for bids and then get through the receipt of bids and answering any questions that come up during the bidding process from like a technical standpoint on equivalencies and things like that. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about some sort of day two projects, if you will. So I leave it up for discussion here, but this is something that Colliers and Tecton was asked to provide an ad service for the town's consideration. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you getting that on Tecton. Thank you for putting together. I think it might, in my opinion, it might be a little premature to pull the trigger on this until we have a little more clarity from the town on the path forward. And obviously the time, there's some severe time limits, restrictions on this timing for solar. So I think I'm hoping to get some clarity from the Board of Selectmen in the next few weeks about, how they plan to fund this. Are we gonna, own this? Can we find other money? Town funds to fund this directly? Do we have to do a PPA? We have to move fast. So, I think this, this would be helpful to, potentially level the fields, but until we know where we're getting the X dollars from, I think it's a little premature. I don't know what you're thinking, Woody. I know you're very eager to get this going,
Well, sure, but I have some issues. I have some issues basically with what KR wrote down here. The main one, I guess, would be that I was under the impression this was going out to bid and not going through Gilbane, and yet it talks about a fee structure for using Gilbane's subcontractors. And then if we use other contractors and bypass Gilbane, the price of the whole thing doubles. So I don't know whether those are just misprints or what, and Adam may know more than I do, but that's sort of what it is. It says proposal assumes the existing contractors and Gilbane will be performing the work, which eliminates the standard submittal reviews to PV system only and not the original electrical commodity items previously reviewed. Changing contractors will require additional review time and can be provided as an additional service. Then if you go down one line to the next page, the fee for this additional service will be $20,400 for design and $91.80 for CA. But that doubles the original $2,400 9100 unless, and 9180, unless that's a mistake and they have to rectify that before we take any action, even if we wanted to. Adam, do you agree with that?
So I interpret that differently, and maybe just can weigh in. Kohler Ronen's proposal goes a little farther than the limits of the Tecton proposal. Right now, the intention was to go through a bid phase process to deliver effectively just documents. Kohler Ronen's letter kind of sneaks ahead into construction administration and submittal of review, which is my understanding of the ask was not to get down that far of the road yet because we don't know where bids would come in on solar panels, and confirming what the project scope is. So there are components of Kohler Ronen's letter proposal here, for example, 9180 for construction administration. Construction administration is not contemplated in the contract ad service that Tecton has provided. It stops at the bid phase. So we're not getting into what contractors would or would not be performing the work because that's a separate initiative that would need to be contracted once the
But it
town
has
is
a doubling of the 20,400 for design. So that's kind of weird.
If I
Justin,
can jump in here, the 20,400 is for the design and documentation, assuming this is a standalone project. Woody, I'll be honest with you, I asked Kohler Ronen to update this proposal because the original proposal they had given a year ago was assuming that this may have been procured as part of the project and ongoing CA. So if there's any latent language that's in here that alludes to that, I'll make sure that it gets stricken. But in my cursory review, I view this as standalone design project to incorporate PV.
and Woody, I don't looking at the verbiage here where this letter serves as our scope of additional services. There are no numbers until you get down to that bottom page. So I think this highlight was from when
So
this
it's just a
proceeded.
repeat of the other. Okay.
Right. I don't think it's
And then
doubling.
next,
Right.
frankly, Graham, I think we're delaying this probably means we have a big problem. I took a look at the Eversource NRES system. I don't know if you've looked at that yet, but it looks to me like school solar has to be submitted by September 15th of this year. And that assumes that the capacity hasn't been exhausted. So I just don't know if we dilly-dally another 3 weeks that's possible. I mean, it's less than a month away. There's no talk about what's going to happen after year 4, but this is the second part of year 4. So we're out of the NRES program. And without that, that's kind of a large problem for us. We don't have to bid this or anything. Schools are gifted this whole thing, so we don't have to go through the bid process like commercial people do. We just have to see if there's capacity available, and we just have to apply before the deadline. And
Yeah, I mean, this is, and I agree, and that's helpful. I don't think we necessarily need this to apply. This is in my mind, this was like doing, and we could put an RFP out tomorrow, but this is to, level the playing fields to get a better handle on what the bids come in as.
Oh, I totally agree that Kohler Ronen should do the design work, and I have some, questions on that. But if we're not going to approve it, we can't approve it tonight anyway because I don't really like the way it reads. But if if Graham, if you and the rest of the crew are okay with it, then that's fine too. But we have a lot to do, I would think. I also agree we don't have to have this done before we apply. But I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, are you thinking? I mean, right now we don't have the money because the money is potentially tied up in other, potential other projects, and potentially the demolition of Ryerson. Because this was never part of the referendum, and there's a question whether that was or was the demolition was or was not, but more likely solar definitely was not. So I told Peggy we're going to have to move quickly on this, but right now there's no source of funding unless we're just going to do a PPA and just reconcile that.
That would be a shame if we could find the money. It makes a huge difference. But But in any case, if we're able to apply and there is capacity available, we should certainly do that, and we should do that quickly.
Do you have to know if you need a PPA or direct purchase?
Pardon me?
Do you need to decide if you're doing a PPA before September 15th?
I have no idea. I haven't looked it over. So I don't know. I was hoping, KR would or somebody involved with that would, but I can certainly take a look. But I don't feel comfortable coming up with an answer, even reading the Eversource CRUD.
Yeah. No, I know there's different I've heard different dates. It was July of next year, then it was the end of this year, and then it was 5%, and then it was 10% spent before the deadline. So it's a moving target. I have a meeting with a consultant who, specialist next week. That's first I've heard of September 5th, as soon as September 15th. We're going in, the Board of Selectmen is a meeting next Monday, to kind of update some of that. And I've told Peggy, if it is in fact that soon, we can,
Well, there's two separate programs. We're talking about there's the federal program, which has been changed a number of times, but we're also talking about Eversource's approval process for these, and that's what the NRES program is. So that's a local program, and it is. I just looked at it before the meeting. There's no question. It's September 15th is the deadline for schools to apply. So that I'm sure of. And if we don't make that, we have to assume that one of two things. If they have a year 5 added somehow, we would go to that and do it next year just for the approval from Eversource. Or if they don't, then we won't. And we'll have to see what program replaces it, but it's not going to be the same. So my guess is if there's any way to apply, we should apply, because that at least takes care of the Eversource, the local part of it. And then we got the federal part. But I think we're not in bad shape with the federal part.
what's your understanding of the time limits for the federal stuff as of now?
It looks to me like commercial like this, we have to have it by next July 1st or something
July
like that.
3rd? I think it was the day they passed the act, so
Yeah,
that's right. Okay, that's what I heard.
yeah.
It was
Uh,
started by July 1st and completed by the end of the year or something like that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And we should be able to do that if, bidding would be done long before that, procurement would be done. I think we could make that.
Can I ask, what is the nature of the NRES program? Is there like a kind of a range of reimbursement or something that we can consider?
It's an agreement set by Eversource to allow you to take one of two different incentives. The first one is called Buy All, where the solar goes 100% into the grid, and you are compensated at a certain rate. The second is called the netting incentive, where it's just like we have now for most PV systems, where the building consumes as much of the solar as it needs, and any excess beyond that goes to the grid. In the case of the netting, we are compensated for what goes to the grid at the same rate that we are charged for the power. So most people, most installers that I've talked to seem to feel that the netting is the way to go. My view on the netting is that it also allows us to come up with the answer to the real question, which is how much of the power that the building uses is supplied by the sun. And I think that'll be the most interesting thing for you and for students and for staff. And I don't want to lose that capability. So it would just, netting's the right way to go. And there's an additional incentive to using netting in that regard.
Well, since we have a campus kind of, I know that Neck River is a little bit separated by the river and some wetlands, but is there a possibility to use a battery system or some other transfer to partially power Polson and the high school with excess that's generated instead of selling it back to the grid at some meager amount?
Well, it actually isn't a meager amount if it's the same price as you're being charged for it. But I think the complexities of that, there is, by the way, a provision in NRES to have more than one building attached. And I think I haven't read through it. It's complicated, and frankly, I just am not qualified to answer that question. But it looks to me like it's a virtual netting. It's not where we have to run cables from one building to the next, which would be absolutely completely prohibitive. But it's very possible we could do that. But I think step one is to get the 550 or 560 kilowatt system submitted to Eversource. So A, we're not beyond the cutoff date, and B, we're not short of the capable KWs that are available. As if they allocate all of the power that they set aside, and I don't know what that number is, then we don't, even if we apply on time, we won't get it. So, that's why I'm thinking that we really need to do that if we want to participate in the program and get the solar up at all.
Is there a way for the group to vote on authorizing the generation of an application that gives some discretion to Graham, for example, to get the application in within a price range that you can discuss at this meeting?
Yeah, I don't think there's a, you mean for fee for the application or whatever?
Not the application fee, but it seems to me like what we're looking at now on the screen is a proposal for the planning for the project, right? And we're questioning whether we should vote, whether I don't get a vote, whether the group should vote now, or whether it would be premature to vote now because we don't know yet what kind of money we're dealing with for the actual build, right? But if this money's not going to be spent, if the build doesn't go forward, then there's no harm, no foul in voting to potentially spend up to X amount on preparatory, study or whatever this is.
Yeah, in terms of the application I'm not sure Cole or Ronan would, I think you'd have to have a specialty firm submit the application that would prepare that.
I've also seen another
Usually,
town do
I'll
it.
tell you this, Graham, usually
Yeah.
they're pretty simple.
Yeah.
I did 15 of them for the original program that was in place from 2017 to 2021 or two. And they're 3 pages long and not particularly complicated because they're not contracts. They're just our request to get one. So it would seem to me that the town could probably handle that, or certainly, somebody could get it done before the deadline. And somebody ought to check to see that there's availability. Because if there isn't availability, we're wasting our time.
Yeah, there may not, there's so many times, everyone's trying to chase this because of the legislative changes.
Right.
Everyone's scrambling to do something.
Exactly. And with the prior program, there were penalties for not completing something. So they were very loosely defined so that, like, we did a system at the Madison Police Department. We were intending to put a 100 kilowatt system along the driveway, and the baseball people decided that they didn't like that idea. So we ended up putting a 10 kilowatt system on the roof, and that satisfied the contract. So, we don't have to necessarily do the whole thing. We could do, as I thought earlier, we could do money dependent. We could do a smaller system or whatever. But at least we should get something in, and we should find out if the allocation has been utilized.
So what you're talking about is something totally different than what we're seeing in front of us. You're talking about applying to Eversource for whatever.
Well,
Okay.
somebody
Yeah.
can ask.
Yeah.
So Eversource is allowed to use 10 megawatts of, you know,
Okay,
I think the governor
So-
even said the state had a cap on the solar, and the governor said, okay, I'm going to give the schools a certain part of that,
okay,
know,
I see.
non-competitively. To say, I'm going to give 5 megawatts to schools because you want solar on schools. So, but there's, you know, what are you talking about? A process to request that
Gotcha.
for that
And what
5.
we're looking at here is the design fees for designing the system. That may or may not be part of this project. You have to talk to the town on where that's gonna fall, but we're gonna pay for the design fees out of our budget regardless?
Well, that's a question. Yeah, that, you know,
Okay.
do they want us to do this? How involved do they want us to do this? Do they want to control it completely themselves? You know, this approach, which makes sense, is to level the playing fields, but you wouldn't necessarily have to do this step. This is good planning and good process, but they may have a
Right.
different mind. And we may just return the money that's left, and they proceed
To do it on their own
do
as a
their own
separate
do this on their
package.
own project, right?
So we really have nothing to vote on right now till you talk to the
No,
town on how they
I
wanna
don't-
handle it?
I don't think there's any point in voting on it right now. Right, Graham?
Do you need a design in order to submit the application or get the
I don't think
application?
so.
approved?
That's not,
I don't think so, but you know, I'll try to take a look at it this ASAP, and if anybody else can, you know, Graham.
Yeah. And Woody, if you could maybe send it around to everyone on the committee, but collectively, between us and the town, if we can, you know, cobble something together.
Yeah, if there's no design requirement, which there never has been, they may ask for the size of the array so they can allocate the funds for it, but they've never asked for a design before they've agreed to give you the, you know, the ability to lock those KWs. So my guess is they don't, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll take a look at it. And that's the only thing we really have to do immediately, because we're not really talking about doing anything physical until next, you know, June of 26. So we have time to put it out to bid. We have time to design it. So I don't see the issue, and there's no reason to even think of voting, because I think, it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we need to get it, the writing, you know, the document to be correct. Right, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, we'll remove that last paragraph that makes reference to existing contracts. I'd be curious, Woody, and we probably don't need to go over it now, but if there's anything else that you see in that proposal, it's kind of a language that I trust my engineers to speak. So if there's anything that needs to, from your eye, needs to be updated technically, I certainly can update that.
I didn't see that. The only thing that I've done a lot of digging into the SMA Core 1 system and talked to a few different installers. And frankly, I don't think there's any question, in my mind anyway, that those are the inverters we should use. So I'd like to see Colaronin agree with that. And if not, I'd like to talk to Craig about it, because those to me seem like the obvious choice for anything similar to what we're doing. And pricing is similar to other things. So I'd like to see a zero, you know, a no substitute choice specified when they do their work. And I'm happy to discuss it with them.
And in no scenario will Gilbane be involved in constructing this, right? I mean, I think that's a consensus. Gilbane,
I don't know why you would. I think you're going to get a better price bidding it directly to an installer. I mean, our electrical contractors are doing more of this work as it continues to get more popular, but I think your best buy is to bid it direct.
Yeah, it's definitely a specialty, you know, the racking system, and you gotta, you know, the proprietary racking systems drive a lot of this stuff.
One thing worth mentioning is that Eversource on new projects is requiring a second disconnect after the bus, so that the solar system or the solar panels can't backfeed the switchgear. And so that may be worth just running by them. If you need to add a disconnect to this switchgear somehow, could be a costly endeavor or could be logistically challenging. So it might just be worth.
Oh, they
worth
absolutely require it. And there's no question we would have to reroute what was done in terms of the 3 conduits going from the roof to the main distribution panel. Those would have to be cut kind of as they enter the building, or come through, and then routed outside to the disconnect and then routed back in. Not a huge big deal. I looked it over when I was there, and I think it's totally doable. And
Yeah, I think you have room to do it in
Yeah,
the various
absolutely.
spaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I do think there's room and it'll be fine. It's too bad we did it that way, but it's not a big deal. What is a bigger deal, frankly, is getting the communication conduit so that we can go from the roof where the inverters will be into one of the switch, to a room that has switch gear that we can attach to. I know Justin's working on that.
Yes, Woody, that's in the queue.
So we'll turn the meeting back over to Adam at this point. So we won't take any motion. Woody, if you'll take a look at that form, pass it around and see how quickly we and verify the deadline, and we'll get it figured out, and then we'll revisit this. Yes.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Woody.
All right, the second of the four documents I have here is for the $1,305 to WB Meyer. Again, they're the mover company, but they also do small installation items. This is for going through the classrooms to install the small American flags that are required for all the educational spaces. So we previously approved a proposal from a firm to furnish and install them. Subsequent to that, they are not able to install them. So we have the flags, they're on site, they just need to be bolted to the walls. So that's what this is for. And this would contemplate removing that scope from the other vendor and instead having WB Meyer provided as part of their existing contract with the town.
Is there a credit offsetting this ad?
Yeah, the reduction from the other firm would be just over 1,400. So we save about $100 in making the switch.
Now we know how much it costs to mount a flagpole inside a room. So
There's like 60 of them, so it's
yeah,
a
no,
lot
it's a
of
good value.
So that's the second item on from the PDFs. The third and the fourth are both related to additional furniture requests. In talking with Principal Becky Frost and getting the final counts for staffing and the student population, there was a couple requests for additional chairs and student desks and teacher desks to support all those folks. They were above and beyond what the initial anticipated populations would be. It's split up into 2 quotes because one of them they need to be separated so that way they can be released per the vendor. One of them takes longer than the other. The student and teacher desks, I believe, is a 4 or 5 week lead time. And that's for $23,566.26. The second quote is for additional lunchroom tables for the students, as well as some shelving, I believe for the media center, based on the book counts. Again, for $13,732.59. Those are both under that existing vendor that's supplied those equipment or supplied those furniture items for the project and are part of state contract pricing, similar to what we had approved before. So nothing new in terms of equipment, or nothing new in terms of furniture pieces, just more of them to house the bodies. Any questions on those? All right, I will flash up on the screen. I've struck the solar ocean from the top line there.
So Six
You're
right
up.
there,
You're
whatever. Okay.
volunteering, Sharon, to read these?
Okay. Motion to approve quote 59309 for the installation of American flags from WB Meyer in the amount of $1,305 under their existing PO 20255,712. This motion also contemplates the reduction of PO 20260,788 for Insalco by $1,450 and removing the installation of the flags from their scope.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to increase PO 20255,712 for WB Myers by $40,000 for additional move services.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to increase PO 20255,710 for Connecticut Communications by $500 for elevator phone module configuration and installation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve quote Q-06113-4 for Meteor to the amount, I read that totally wrong, sorry, in the amount of $23,566.26 under state contract for additional desk chairs to align with current student enrollment and staffing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve quote Q-06319-1 from Meteor in the amount of $13,732.59 under state contract for additional shelving and cafeteria tables to align with current student enrollment and staffing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. That is the end of the procurement component. If I'm all right to move on to the invoice packet. So for under agenda item 6, with the monthly invoice packet here, it's quite a bit longer than we usually have, just as we get into some of these vendors completing their scopes of work and getting closed out. So invoices from our commissioning agent, BVH Salas O'Brien, the Promethean board installation from CDW and their subcontractor, which is now complete. There are 3 invoices from Colliers. If you recall, we haven't billed for a couple months as we got some contractual items resolved. So now that those are set, we're kind of back billing for some of those months that we, as part of our PO increase. CNC Janitorial for some of the facilities equipment, CT Communications, both for the phone installation and configuration, which is complete, and that $500 item that we had mentioned earlier. Imperial Dade for vacuums for facilities, ITS fire alarm monitoring. That was a facilities requested invoice for 1-year monitoring that was previously approved at an SBC meeting. Lakeshore, which provided a lone carpet in one of the rooms, which has been delivered. Our special inspection coordinator, Michael Horton and Associates, has completed their final closeout report for special inspections, so that invoice gets them closed out. 2 invoices from Omni. They're the town's IT key IT vendor. Both of these are related to the installation of the switches and the server and those components. So that work under that PO is complete. Northeast scoreboards, they provided the 2 scoreboards in the gym. Those are installed and functioning and all closed out. Red Thread for the furniture in the largely the music furniture room. School Specialties, which provided largely rugs throughout the rest of the building. Stryker, which furnished both the cabinets and the actual defibrillators that go in the cabinets. There are 4 of those throughout the building. Tecton's monthly invoice for construction administration. United Ag and Turf, which provided the John Deere tractor for facilities for use at the building. WB Mason, they're not completely closed out yet as there's some additional items that need to be delivered, but the bulk of their materials have been installed, and those are reflected on this invoice. WB Meyer, mentioned earlier that allowance increase to cover this invoice that was passed along from facilities for all of their moves. And then Gilbane pay requisition 17 for a total of just over 1.1 million. I would note that as we've now gotten past substantial completion, which that executed certificate is in the SBC packet, we will probably have, working with Zach on starting to release retention for some of the trades as part of the next invoice packet. So you see this relatively small number here now as we got sort of towards the end of the bulk of the work. So I would expect one, potentially two pay requisitions next month, which will be a big lump item as a bunch of retention is released to these subcontractors that are substantially complete. Any questions on the laundry list of invoices before I put the lengthy motion on the screen?
Whew, we can't just kind of say, look at your, have to read them all, huh?
I leave it up to you. I won't tell anyone if you don't, but
That's all right. I'll do my best. All right. Motion to approve invoice package dated 8/18/25, including invoices from BBH, CDW, Colliers, CNC Janitorial, CT Communications, Imperial Dade, ITS, Lakeshore, MHAI, Omni, Northeast Scoreboards, Red Thread, School Specialty, Stryker, Tecton, United AG and Turf, WB Mason, and WB Meyer in the amount of $491,369.33, and construction pay requisition 17 from Gilbane in the amount of $647,419.30 for a total approval of $1,138,788.63.
Nicely done. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job, Sharon.
Thank you. I've been reading for a long time.
You have.
Got it. Moving on. Is that everything, Adam, you got?
that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. Item 7, public comment. Do we have any public?
No, there's no one online.
Thank you. Item 8, remarks. Any remarks before we adjourn?
I'll just say I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Sharon,
I
you
would
wanna-
love to make that motion.
Woody, I assume you want to second that?
Absolutely.
All in favor? Adjourn?
Aye.
I'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, see
Bye.
you tomorrow. Take care.